Understand it's a bit of a long stretch without a restroom break. I'm nearly 60. I get it. So feel free to, again, come and go as you need to, but we're not going to necessarily take a break here. So I'm going to talk about coaching and a coach approach to leadership, and I'm going to talk for sort of the first half, and then we're going to get real interactive, okay? So yeah, who am I? 38 years in the IT department or IT world, and then 27 years at Brotherhood Mutual. I also started my professional career at General Electric, Motors Division, right down the street. Matt and I did not overlap, but we definitely have that.
Our hairlines do, though.
Yes, came from GE, ended up at Brotherhood Mutual, and those are pretty diametrically opposed. But I think we learned some things at General Electric. Again, management for 17 years, and executive for 15. And I've been the CISO for 8 years. I do have 6 adult children, wonderfully creative, capable children, and really for me, raising teenage children, 3 girls and 3 boys, that was my MBA. And one of my professors is here. Grace is here today, so thanks for coming, Grace. I also have 8 grandkids. Grace is partially responsible for that. And I am freshly trained as a leadership coach. 2 weeks ago, I finished the 7-month-long academic and classroom work required for my certification. So I'm full of knowledge and working on the experience part. And some of that is what we're going to share today. So here's my agenda. We're going to narrowly define coaching, specifically the way the International Coaching Foundation defines it. And so we're going to get into that and then distinguish that from other helping approaches, like mentoring or consulting. We're going to examine some basic coaching skills and then do some practice stuff, and then potentially some bonus content if we have time. Sound good? All right, so what is coaching? Partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. So that's from the International Coaching Federation. And really the key here, again, if we're going to narrowly define coaching, is really about assisting that client or that coachee much more than it is giving any kind of advice. So first, we're going to watch this little video. I wonder if I know how to start this video. So this is real short, but this will give, again, the official ICF definition and some distinctions.
When you hear the word coaching, what springs to mind? Football coach? Acting coach? Vocal coach? Maybe even a financial coach? Confusing, isn't it? Well, coach has become such a popular title that it's being used by lots of professions, often with no training. And sometimes coaching is just a fancy way of saying, I'll ask you a few questions and then tell you what I think you should do. Well, let's clear the air a little bit about coaching. Coaching is often confused with therapy, consulting, and mentoring. Now, those are great helping professions, but they're not professional coaching. Here's the difference. Therapists focus on the past and work to fix what's broken. Consultants provide quantitative analysis and create roadmaps for organizational change. They get paid to provide answers. Mentors help those with less experience. Mentors are already experts in their field and are helping others reach success. Now, there may be some overlaps in approach, but none of these are professional coaching. Professional coaching is a different type of conversation. There's a whole lot of asking and not much telling. Professional coaches are focused on you, helping you design your future, your goals. They're thought-provoking and inspirational. You work on your topic. A professional coach focuses on you. Professional coaches are also discerning listeners, empathetic, creative, intuitive, and curious. They're trained in coaching behaviors and competencies, which makes them really good coaches, and they're bound by professional standards and ethics. A professional coach will be your partner, your advocate, your champion.
Okay. So some things that coaching is not, and specifically, I suppose when I first really kind of dove into this, again, this is my exit strategy, right? I'm less than 10 years from retirement, and my thought is, hey, as I get close to retirement, then coaching seems like a good next thing. So I took this coaching class, and what you quickly realize is that in order to be a good coach, a good executive coach, or a coach with IT people, you don't need to know anything about IT, anything about business, and anything about management. What's the point? And again, what I think I realized over time is that, first of all, it is good to have all those things. If you've got that background, then that saves a lot in the communication, and you can bring some skills, some talent, some abilities. But coaching is just a different discipline. And so again, and I promise that at this point, if you're thinking, well, then if you don't need any of those things, and that's what I've built my career on, then why am we talking about coaching? We'll get to that. It will be valuable. Really, just wait till the end. So what it's not, mentoring is about, again, sharing knowledge and experience. It's that, master blacksmith who trains and mentors somebody young. It's skills transfer. Consulting is about solving problems. So as a coach, you're not necessarily trying to solve the problem for an individual, but help them solve a problem. And again, this will become really helpful as we talk about how we can coach with other coworkers, either the folks who work for us or those who we work with. And again, it's not exactly training, which is more about skills and knowledge transfer. And it's not the function of directing or managing, which is about, having a vision, inspiring, overseeing, leading. So these are all great things to have as a manager. We want you to have these as a manager, right? As a good manager, you should be mentoring and consulting and training with your coworkers, with the people that work for you. But that's not coaching. So we're going to talk about how coaching, distinct from these things, can add to and be, again, part of the whole package. So we first got into coaching, when I got into this, again, academic side of what is a coach and what is coaching, this was one of the things, being creative, resourceful, and whole, that's kind of the big mind shift. Coaching starts from the perspective that the coachee, the client, is creative, resourceful, and whole. That your brilliance that you're bringing to the conversation, in a coaching conversation, they don't need your brilliance. They're brilliant. And so as we approach others and think of them as creative, resourceful, and whole, it's a different approach for a different conversation. So an employee, and again, you guys can read this stuff, the person that you're working with may be younger, less experienced, less knowledgeable. Again, you're in a position of seniority, but we're not going to focus on what they don't have. We're going to focus on that they're creative, resourceful, and whole. We can talk about a few of these other things. The bottom bullet, I love this is my Achilles heel, right here. I am a helping person by nature, and I love to add value. When someone comes into my office, Matt or Juwan or someone, and they've got a problem and they've got the solution, they just want permission, and they're telling me their solution, I really want to add value. If they've got it's 95, 96% baked, I know there's 1 or 2%. I can add value. I love to add value. But often you're destroying that person's ownership. Because if I add 2% of value, but I undercut 30 or 40% of the ownership that person has for the solution, in the end, it's not better. It's just not better. So again, that's a value, and it's a key approach to coaching. And I'm simply saying that most of us, we're in leadership because we are wired to add value, and because we do have knowledge and more either experience or age, years under the belt, or things than the people that we're working with. So this is a real trap, and it's a difficulty for me in my late 50s to change gears on this. Here's a couple quotes that I know you guys have probably heard before about, again, valuing the intelligent in others. So again, Steve Jobs said, "It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do." So hopefully, when you think about your direct reports, you're thinking of them this way. And if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. Okay. This is a little bit of the transition then. That's some background stuff. Now we're going to talk about some of these are 4 basic coaching skills. And again, I've just spent the last 7 months drilled week after week working on these things. So coaching presence, deep listening, expanding possibilities, and powerful questions. With coaching presence, what we're talking about here is a couple things. And again, you know this stuff, right? We all know this sort of intuitively. We've heard this kind of things before. But let's put them together in a package, and we're going to do some exercises here in a minute. We want to remove distractions. We want to talk 20% of the time at most, and we want to affirm the person that we're talking to. With affirmation comes much more creativity and openness as you work through a problem. And again, we're going to practice these. Deep listening. So we want to gather more information, but not just the facts. Deep listening is looking for the things under the things that are not said, the emotional charge to the situation, themes, how does this look like things before, expanding possibilities. This is really just about overcoming a natural tendency of our brains, our monkey brains, right? Do I chase after the banana or do I run up a tree to escape the lion? We tend to think that way. It's a good survival thing, but it's not really the best way to play chess. And strategic thinking, we want to be, thinking not binary. And then powerful questions. Powerful questions serve the coachee, and they're typically short. I'm terrible at this. Terrible. When I think about the way I typically ask questions, my default mode when somebody's explaining something to me and they're looking for an answer, and then I'm trying to, I'm going to play coach. I'm going to ask them a question. Well, first, I kind of set the stage. Well, given that this and that and these other things are true, then do you see our path forward more like A or more like B? Well, first of all, that's not open-ended, and it's way too long and gives them way too much to think about. And simply using questions that start with what or how, that are open-ended questions, yield way better results. So now I have this habit when I'm thinking, at least, and I'm processing this, and I'm like, I want to ask an open-ended question, right? That's what I'm thinking as Matt or somebody brings a problem to me, and I'll start with, so what? And I say what before I even really know the full question, because then I forced myself into a corner of now I must ask an open-ended question. Simply asking questions with what or how is like magic sauce. Okay, so with these 4 things in mind, now we're going to practice. And this is the audience participation part. So, somebody comes in and says, hey, the quote for new shiny thing just came back and it's under budget. But if we add the maintenance contract for an additional 15%, we will be over budget. What do you want to do? And so now, thinking as a coach and wanting to help grow your folks and not just give pat answers or whatever, we're going to take a coach approach and ask some questions. We're going to go through these 4 things. What is a question or a comment that we can make that shows we're fully present? Matt, I see your lips moving. You're thinking of something.
Thinking. Preface the question by restating the facts.
Or just sit down, let's talk about it.
Let's sit down. So that is removing distractions, right? They catch you in the hallway. Hey, we got the quote back. But if you say, hey, yeah, let's sit down. Let's talk about it. That's good. That's removing distractions. By restating the question, you're potentially, eliciting some more details. We can also, again, if we just want to be affirming, what's an affirming statement that you can make after somebody asks you a question like this? So what do you think is you said, I value your opinion. You can also just tell them, thanks for getting the quote. We know that new shiny thing is going to be revolutionary for our department, so I really appreciate you following up on that. Let's go sit down and talk about it. So, okay, you're now fully present. Okay, listening more deeply. And again, I'll help you out here with this first one. We've got some more to go. But listening more deeply, again, we're wanting to get under the surface, not just the facts. So we might ask something like, how concerned would you guys be if we didn't do the maintenance? How does the team feel about that? Or even, how are they feeling about new shiny thing? Is new shiny thing something that the team really, really wants? Or they're like, it's just the next thing we're putting in because management wants it. So those are some of the questions. Anybody else have how do we get a little bit deeper as in our listening?
I always just tell people that I care about what they think more than what I personally think. Right? Again, it goes back to you're not the smartest person in the room, right?
Yeah.
You want your team to grow mentally, and also know that they can safely express their opinions and thoughts with you as their manager.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I care about what you guys think more than I do. So, what do you want to do?
Yeah. So that's maybe a powerful question. Understanding and listening. Yeah. How do you feel about it? What do you want to do? What's their default mode? Expanding possibilities. That's maybe a question like,
Have we asked the vendor if they can cut the price so we can fit it in the budget?
Yeah. Have we asked them to cut the price? That's a great expanding possibility. But that's one. And so that's a good question, but it's still binary. It's yes or no. So I'm going to challenge, can somebody give me a open-ended, begins with what or how, question that expands? What are some alternatives to new shiny thing?
What can we move around to make it fit?
How can we make it fit in the budget? And
What are the bad things that could happen?
yeah, if we don't get the maintenance, what are our downsides?
How do we understand the total cost of ownership over expected time?
Yeah, total cost of ownership is that's going to tell us and help us understand whether this makes sense to push to exceed the budget or not.
What is the impact to the business if we don't do this?
Yeah, if we either don't get new shiny thing or if we don't, and if the maintenance contract, is it about, what is our goal with the maintenance contract? Is it about minimizing downtime? Is it about parts availability because tariffs with China? What are we trying to achieve there? Is time and material acceptable and realistic or not? But again, we don't ask, is this realistic or not? Because that's a binary question. We ask the people who are closest to it, the people that we trust, the smarter folks in the room, what other options do we have? And so then, and we get down to the powerful question is, think of a powerful question as more forcing that person who's come to you whether that's a direct report or peer or whatever, someone who's come to you, it's forcing them to think more deeply, more meta about the situation. So it's saying things like, if you were in my shoes, what would you say? If you had the responsibility, what would our CEO want to know? If our CEO was in the room, what question would he or she ask? If it was your money, what would you do? That kind of thing. All right, so this is the first one, and I helped out a little bit, but I'm going to try to help less and less. Here's our second practice. So a manager or team lead comes to you. My two strongest engineers are not speaking to one another. Tomorrow I'm meeting with both of them to try to resolve the conflict, and I hate conflict. I want your help in doing this well. Not that Matt or my daughter or Juwan have ever come to me with a situation like this. How can we be fully present? How can we, again, either make sure that we're fully focused or affirm something? Matt.
I usually find when things like this come up, getting outside and going for a walk is best. Go in a neutral situation where we can pry into the situation a little bit deeper. That's not my cubicle or an office or inside. Physical
Where
activity.
Chris doesn't have the mics, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's always helpful. Other thoughts? A fully present type response or question?
You could just acknowledge that that's a difficult situation.
Yes.
Just say, wow, that sounds tough.
Yeah, that's a strong acknowledging statement. Yeah, that's tough. I'm really glad you care about getting things worked out between these two. That's really important. Anything else? Or how can a question that would listen more deeply? Yeah, Aaron.
Just a clarifying question about what the conflict is actually about.
Yeah. What is the root of this kind of thing?
You also want to speak and explain to them that your intention is to help coach them to handle this on their own, so it doesn't feel like to the engineers that you're doing it for them.
Yeah. Yep. You've got this. How can I help? Absolutely. Yeah.
You can also ask what makes them uncomfortable while not handling conflict, why they hate engaging in it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, really appreciate you handling this and that this is important. But yeah, you hate conflict. Talk to me about your history, where that's gone bad or gone south. Has it ever gone well for you? Can we think about some of that? How about expanding possibilities? Is there an expanding possibilities type question we can ask?
I ask people, how did they even get here, right? Because again, there's something 2 or 3, 4 layers deeper, right? Mm-hmm. Over time, and now this is like the boiling point. So again, it's asking why 5 times. It's like a root cause analysis it's like an RCA for your people, really.
Yeah.
Why aren't they working well? What is the conflict, and why are we here?
Yeah. How did we get here?
To this?
And we could say, have you talked to HR? Would it be helpful to game this with one of your coworkers or me first? Do you need to take care of it tomorrow? Maybe it needs to be taken care of today, but maybe you've got a week or so, and doing this really well would be good. A powerful question. I think that's a little bit back to the, why is conflict so tough for you? That'd be kind of a powerful question.
Maybe even ask, what do you expect to happen in the meeting?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen tomorrow when you have this conversation? How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, or the what would be the best outcome?
Sure.
And how can we make that happen? Is there anything we can do to try to make that happen? Even maybe 2 weeks from now at our next one-on-one, what do you hope you've learned from this? That's just kind of, again, a meta, like get them to think about who they are and how they can learn from the situation. All righty, number 3. Intermittent performance issues on System X are not getting any better, and users are getting frustrated. Frankly, we look like idiots as we try things that don't help. The vendor seems clueless and just keeps asking us to send logs. What should we do next?
Fire the vendor.
We just spent 2 years putting this ERP system in. Yeah, again, Matt, I was practicing these with Matt, and Matt goes like, these are good and really hit close to home. So hopefully it hits close to home for all of you guys. I mean, this is what we deal with every day. So they bring you this problem. How can we be fully present? Affirming or focused?
Acknowledging that, yeah, I mean, we're all frustrated. You know, acknowledge that it's true. Don't try and say it's not true.
Yeah.
It is. It's validate the person.
What different approach can you take with a vendor?
Is there a different approach with the vendor? How else can we be fully present?
Just ask what approach they have taken or what those conversations with the vendor have looked like up to this point.
Affirm that you trust that they can get through this and that it's not an insurmountable issue, that they've got the tools and the backing to do it.
Yeah, so we can affirm that you're going to get through this. A month from now, we'll be on to the next problems. This one will be behind us, we hope.
Remind them that leadership is behind them and helping them, making sure that the users are staying focused and not being outwardly frustrated, and the leadership team is working together to help them solve that problem.
Yeah,
Because it should start from the top down.
we got your back. Know you're working hard on this. So how can we listen more deeply? What can we hear about that's not just the facts, not just what's being said, but what's underneath that? What kind of questions, what can we use to facilitate that?
What is the vendor clueless about?
Yep.
I think asking what we know for sure is a good way to listen more deeply, because that way you can eliminate the subjectivity, or you can separate the subjectivity from the objectivity. That's what Cy Wakeman talks about, using that question quite often. What do we know for sure?
Yeah, what do we know for sure? Get to just the brass tacks.
It's important why you feel like an idiot and why the users are frustrated.
Yeah, tell me about their frustration. How is the team really doing here? Does the vendor share our frustration? Yeah, because we've got these 3 different groups going on. But anything we can ask about how we're feeling, how people are dealing with it, because we might need to deal with some of the things before we deal with the things that are. How can we expand possibilities? Because right now we're just beating our heads against either trying stuff or hoping the vendor can help. Yeah, Juan.
And do we have the right people in the room to talk about the problem?
That's a great question. Do we have all the right people?
Other outside people we can bring in to help.
Is there anybody else? Yeah, I'm checking my notes here. Yeah. Is there any other way to minimize disruption?
In this situation, I'm calling the vendor and explaining to them that it's not acceptable that they're clueless. We pay them for it.
How can we communicate better with the vendor and are we giving them all the information they need? Maybe it's not, maybe we can, how can we better supply them with information?
Yeah, what else does the vendor need? Sure. Good questions. Powerful question. again, somebody has brought this to you, asking for help. How can we get some reflection happening with the person?
One of the things I would ask is, what's the real business impact? Right, sometimes people will be frustrated, but it's not really impacting the business. It's a little harder on the front end, things aren't going well, but putting it all into perspective, allowing them to see the perspective that we're actually okay, and this is just part of the journey.
Yeah.
That can be a good thing. So what's really happening?
So that might be some of our expanding possibilities. Is there already workarounds? What's the right level of urgency here? And then we can attack this a different way. Yeah, that's a powerful question. Again, so when we do the post-mortem a couple weeks from now, what do you think we'll have learned? How are we going to avoid this in the future? How will our leadership team have grown through this mess? How can we take this mess, can we use this to strengthen our relationship with the users and their teams? Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? All right, how are we doing on time?
Good.
We are good in time. All right, this is our last practice. The developers have been sidestepping our deployment process because they claim the automations are constantly broken and delay their critical fixes. The DevOps team has responded by locking down access to the point that devs can't troubleshoot issues. How should we resolve the standoff? Fire them all. Okay, how do we be fully present to affirm or focus our attention?
Thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Yeah. I'm glad you care about both sides. Yeah, maybe you should step in my office and we should talk about this, or go for a walk. Get away from the microphones or other listening ears. Yeah, okay, how about listening more deeply?
Can you give a specific example of when this happened and what the details were?
Yeah, let's run through that, and that's our facts. So we want those, and tell me about it. Yeah, how is each team feeling? Is it really the whole team or is it just one or two folks? What's not being said here?
How many times has it happened? Is it the first time or the 50th time?
Yeah, is this recurring?
Does DevOps team have access locked down because they're working on implementing fixes? I want to know why we're being denied access to troubleshoot the problem.
What are the motivations of the actions of each? Yeah.
How about what's the ratio between the people, the process, and the tools?
Yes, people, process, technology, which is broke? Are we trying to fix a people problem when we've really got a process? Or even technology, our automation tools, we should fire those and get something else. Or maybe the technology and the process in this case are perfectly fine, and if we could fire one person, would the whole problem go away? I mean, that's a question. Even if, and yeah, Matt will attest, you can ask if we fired somebody. Okay, and then since we're not going to do that, how are we going to approach the problem now that we've identified that it is a people problem? How can we expand possibilities?
How's everything flow in staging?
Yep. Let's look at another environment where potentially things are okay. Yeah. How else can we expand possibilities?
Is our process broken where I decide to?
Sure. The whole what's not working well with process, or what's not working well with people, or what's not working well with technology. Again, you're starting with the what type open-ended question, but let's talk about how any number of things could be fixed here.
I think, also, what are the priorities, right, of these teams, right? Is this the highest priority? Like, where is it ranked, right? Because if your teams don't have a good sense of prioritization on these, they deem critical fixes. Does DevOps know that these are critical fixes, right? So do you have good communication?
Yeah, typically, right, we end up with a situation like this when the priorities get sideways, right? So the devs, they need critical fixes. People are beating on them to get stuff out. And the DevOps team is like, whoa, 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 we need good check-in and check-out. We need to have the whole process locked down. That's what people expect from us. And we can't do both. And so then either management needs to break the tie or those other process and technology things need to get fixed. But again, we're not the smartest person in the room, so we're trying to elicit all those things. John, you had a thought?
So maybe a question like, what are the common goals that the teams have together? What are they trying to get done at the end of the day to try to weed out, where there might be some siloed priorities?
So you can identify what are our common goals, and then we can work out those separate ones. At General Electric, I don't know if it was when Matt was there, but one of the terms that I used to hear regularly is, let's get all the liars in one room. And we'll work this out.
Everyone in that room is fired.
Right. So if you're the smartest guy in the room or the most truthful, you're in the wrong room. And a powerful question, so somebody brings this situation and we talk about it, and it's 20 minutes later and we've got some ideas, but now I want to ask a question that will help the person who brought it grow or reflect. What's a good question to do there?
2 weeks from now, how is the relationship between developers and DevOps going to be better? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, this screams to me a relationship problem at its core. And if you try to fix a person relationship problem with process or technology, you're going to fail every time.
Yep. The kumbaya opportunity. Okay, so I'm going to go through these quickly because I like them, because these are me. Leadership is intuitive, but it's not done well. Every single leadership book I've ever read or that somebody's ever told me about, and I say, oh, you read that book? Tell me about it. And they give me and it's like, I know that. I know that. You know that. We all know this stuff already. Why are we not doing it? Because the day-to-day, we just get lost in that stuff. So I would encourage you to read books and do podcasts and do all that stuff to learn something new. No, not really. I don't really expect that there's much that I've said today that's brand new for you, but hopefully the practice helps and you remember something. Obviously, we want to shift our learning as we move into leadership. That's kind of a no joke kind of thing, we know that. We spent a lot of time getting certificates and, on our bachelor's degree and other things to learn technical how to do things. We want to do that with management as well. A lot of times, first-time managers are still contributors. They're still producing a lot of work, but you want to make sure that it's management first and produce with the extra time. That would be my advice as you grow. Management's a team sport. Create your team. This is an opportunity, these get-togethers. Also, people within your organization, find the other leadership folks that can be part of your team. You can bring problems, questions, concerns to. And that problem employee, don't just figure it out on your own. Go to lunch with somebody and talk about it to the extent that it's appropriate. And then, the long-term approach. Think about being at some place for 10 plus years. Again, I've been at Brotherhood for 27 years. And I would say that one of the most valuable things that I've brought to Brotherhood is always thinking, 10 years from now, I'm going to be here. And so, if you're young and change jobs a lot, you have to overcome that. Also, if you're older and like me, closer to retirement, I got to remind myself, no, I might not be here in 10 years, but I need to think and make decisions and plan like I am going to be here in 10 years. And, will I be glad that I made the decisions I made in 5 years? So those are my bonus items. Thoughts or questions before we wrap up? Doug?
Do I have to be somebody's boss to be a coach?
Absolutely not. Yeah. Fortunately, if you're the kind of person that listens well, if you enter a conversation, especially if somebody brings up a question, a problem or whatever, and if you listen 80% of the time, they will come back. Because you know what? Nobody else is listening that well. And then you have an opportunity, like Doug said, to coach, to ask good questions, to listen deeply. If you, again, only listen deeply and affirm, that's 80% of it, right? People are just going to talk, and they're going to talk and find the solutions to their problems, and they're going to say, thanks, that was really helpful. That's great. Yeah, good question, Doug. Others? Thoughts, anything about coaching? Here's my quick plug, my commercial. So I do have a full-time job. I'm a busy guy, and I've got all those kids and grandkids. But I am looking to get coaching hours. I'm about 30 hours into 100 hours that I need before I can get certification. I'm coaching with 4 people that work at my company right now, so I have some folks. My goal and desire is to have 50% of my coachees to be pro bono from nonprofits. That's my goal. So that's number one. If you guys sit on a board, work with somebody who's in a nonprofit, and they are facing a new challenge, give them my name. Send them my way. Find me on LinkedIn or whatever. I do aspire to have, at this point, 1 or 2 paid clients. So I'm not beating the bush for that. I'm not desperate to have a paid client. But if you think that there might be a fit for somebody, not for yourself, of course, that idiot you work with who needs coaching, have them get in touch with me. There you go. Really appreciate the time. This has been fun putting this talk together. It's been fun giving it. You guys are attentive and interactive. Matt and I really appreciate having you here. Thanks.